Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I'm actually recording this one on Saturday. Still no boiler. It's 47 degrees in the kitchen, and you may hear my voice is a little blown out from screaming over the DJ at the wedding Friday night, but all is good here in the basement studio. Later today, around noon Eastern, I will release a bonus episode with the Comedy Survivor Selection Show. The executive committee, which is me, has met and named the 16 comedians that will take place in Comedy Survivor coming to this feed in January. We'll talk about that at noon. Leading off today, Marcello Hernandez in the news. Now, he does two things well. One of them is Domingo and variants on that, and the other, of course, is a Sebastian Maniscalco impression. He got dragged into the White House's battle with Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina was unhappy that the White House had used some of her songs in a post celebrating the work of ICE. They deleted that post, and then they posted a new clip of Sabrina Carpenter doing a commercial for her recent SNL appearance with the audio overdub so that she appears to be calling cast member Marcello Hernandez illegal instead of hot. In the original clip, this is just, I've been doing the bit about the president and I disagree on some of the issues. One of them is Seth Meyers. I've been doing that bit, but come on, guys, what are you doing here? The original SNL commercial, Sabrina stood alongside Marcello and said, "I think I might need to arrest someone for being too hot." Hernandez said, "Oh, well, I turned myself in." In the White House version of the clip, the overdubbed audio now has a voice like Carpenter saying, "too illegal." The caption reads, "PSA, if you're a criminal illegal, you will be arrested and deported." All right, let's take a listen to what these idiots did.
I think I might need to arrest someone for being too illegal.
Oh, well, I turned myself in.
You're under arrest.
I mean, it's not even a good edit. It's just, what are you doing? Just what are you doing? From Wrestle Talk, your home for comedy news, Tony Hinchcliffe said he turned down a WWE writer role earlier in his career. Hinchcliffe was on Rogan's podcast. However, the role would have required Tony Hinchcliffe to move to Stamford, Connecticut, which would have made commuting for his comedy commitments rather annoying. Hinchcliffe said, "Yeah, it was only a couple years into me doing stand-up 7 nights a week at the Comedy Store all the time. Someone's like, 'Hey, I have a friend at WWE if you want to have a meeting with them and just talk.' I went in with straight-up ideas. Like, The Undertaker's brother comes back again." I can't even remember any of them. It's been so long. But I went in with the whole thing, and the guy's like, "This is crazy. You just did this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I found out a couple days ago we were going to talk." They offered him the gig, but he said I would have had to move to Connecticut and take a train to New York every night to go do stand-up, and that would have been exhausting. If it was anywhere else other than Connecticut, it kind of would have made sense. If it was New York City, it would have been a no-brainer. If it was in L.A., definitely. W. Kamau Bell is not happy with friend of the show Jason Zinnemann. Bell wrote on his Substack, "Hey, New York Times, Louis C.K. doesn't need your help." Subheading, "When a newspaper has only one stand-up comedy critic, they actually have none." This is a lengthy Substack post from Bell. I'll pick away at it. He writes, "The New York Times only has one dedicated stand-up comedy critic. When they first hired him in 2011, I thought, yay, the New York Times is taking comedy seriously. But within a short period of time, I came to realize that a newspaper that only has one comedy critic only has one sense of humor. This is a problem. Because comedy is as diverse as a discipline as any other art form. It would be like if the New York Times only had one music critic. We all know that would be ridiculous because the classical music critic has no business reviewing pop music. When you Google New York Times music critic, you get a bunch of different names. Only one name comes up when you do the same with the phrase New York Times comedy critic, Jason Zinnemann." All right, I'm going to jump in there. If you're a regular listener to this program, you know Jason's been on several times, and I've had lengty hour conversations with him. I've never met any conversations we've had. You've heard 98% of it on this podcast, other than, the, hey, I'm going to hit record now, part of our discussions. Seems like a really cool guy. Seems like a level-headed guy. As I often say, I know more about comedy than, say, 98% of the general population, and then the people that know more about comedy than I do know a lot more, and Jason's in that second camp. I also believe, and I'm going to fact check this here as I talk and type, I believe his title is Critic at Large, not so much specific comedy critic. So I'm on nytimes.com right now, and Jason's byline says, "I am a critic at large for the culture section of the New York Times and write a column about comedy." Jason's own words here, "What I cover," skipping down to the second paragraph, "since becoming the paper's first comedy critic in 2011, I focused on stand-up specials, but I also keep an eye on improv, sketch, podcasts, plays, musicals, TikTok accounts, and any other forms in which jokes are made. As a critic at large, I also like to write about movies, theater, and books, but never seem enough time to do it. Now, as someone who puts this show together every day, and I'm a paid subscriber to the New York Times, I believe, and I could kind of prove it here, other people write about comedy for the New York Times. I just typed in search query comedian, and as I record this on Saturday morning, it is 10:38 a.m., the Times is telling me 6 hours ago, Hannah Ziegler posted an article in the arts section, the headline, Bublé for a day, but he can't sing and there's little resemblance. Subheader, Dan Perlman, a comedian, looks and sounds nothing like Michael Bublé, and for some reason he was hired to impersonate the crooner at a birthday party. The next one that surfaced is from August, and it's Zinnemann. Then one from September 28th, also in the arts section. Mark Maron and other comedians rebuke peers in Saudi festival. That's from Derek Bryson Taylor. I guess to be fair to Mr. Bell, that's commentary and not a critic piece, but you get where I'm going, and I don't want to bog down in this. There's plenty here. Bell writes, while I do occasionally read Zinnemann's work, I read it because it concerns my industry, not because I need his particular critic's eye. And yes, a big part of the reason I don't seek him out is because when he found space to mention me, it was clear he was not a fan. Here's the time he squeezed a short review of my Netflix special, Private School Negro, into one of his columns. Bell then quotes Zinnemann as writing, Bell's new special seems a little tepid. His stand-up was never dense with punchlines, but Private School Negro veers further from a tight club set toward a mix of storytelling, jokes, and arguments. It's a rambling, sometimes overly familiar hour. Again, I am friendly with Jason Zinnemann, so I admit I come with a bias here, but I don't think that paragraph I just read to you is, absurd. Getting back to what prompted this piece from Bill, on November 21st, Zinnemann reviewed one of Louis C.K.'s recent stand-up shows at the Beacon Theater. Zinnemann's lovingly crafted prose describes in detail the current evolution of Louis' career. See, Jason is concerned that too few people know that Louis is still a great comedian. This concern seems particularly bizarre and unfounded because Louis is in the middle of a comedy tour that's mostly sold out. It's not like Louis playing small clubs. Louis is playing at the kind of venues you play when you're a super successful touring act. But you don't want to play the Enormodome in the town, so instead you play a bunch of shows at the giant theater in town. In other words, Louis is literally living the stand-up comedian dream. Louis doesn't need Zinnemann's help spreading his word, but Zinnemann does it anyway. Why? Again, I'll let Jason speak for himself. As an observer here, I think Jason went to Louis C.K.'s show during the New York Comedy Festival and thought the stand-up was good, and he wrote about it because that's what he does. Bell quoting Zinnemann writing, in the 7 years since C.K. admitted to sexual misconduct, the comedian has produced 4 different hours of comedy. It's a large, under-examined, formally audacious body of work that represents a break from the past, but also continuity. Bell writes, under-examined? Mr. Zinnemann, are you trying to make us feel bad for not keeping up with Louis C.K.'s work after his admission, etc., etc.? Are you saying that C.K.'s work is somehow so good it'll make us forget that he did the thing he did, etc., etc.? Louis C.K. isn't owed anything from the public. His work isn't under-examined. It is utterly discarded by the audience who thought he could trust him. Interesting. I mean, yes to all of this. I see what Bell's saying. I think Jason Zinnemann went to a show and is also pointing out CK has put out a bunch of things that people haven't seen. I mean, if we want to nitpick the word under-examined, especially the examined part of it, I mean, sure. Here in the basement, where I have no boiler, I just like a good comedy fight. A lot more from Kamau Bell on his Substack if you want to check that out. If you listen to yesterday's show, I told you Vulture has Night Thoughts as their #1 comedy special of the year. There's now a trailer for it. Based on this trailer, I don't see how this is possibly the #1 special of the year. But again, I haven't seen it. But this is a year in which Mark Maron's special came out, and I don't see how this is going to be better than that. So let's listen to the trailer.
Watching your movie made me want to get therapy. Oh, that's good. That's clever. Do not get weird about the muscles. These muscles can't hurt you. These muscles are decorative. Never been in a fight because I'm super good at apologizing. I am an immigrant. Are there any other immigrants here? Okay, what you can't do is point at someone else. I thought I was happy, and then every now and then I'd get very angry out of nowhere. I washed bananas in the sink. Anyone remember what it was like buying marijuana before it was legal? You had to go to a guy's house, pretend to be friends with a guy. You had to watch a little bit of The Matrix with him. You guys get night thoughts? When you're laying in bed in the middle of the night and you can't sleep and your brain's like, here's something new for you to worry about. Or you hadn't thought of that? It's because you're a little bit stupid. Night thoughts are like day thoughts, except they hate you. This one's really keeping me up at night. White people, there's more.
And for some reason, it is bothering me, the voice that Kumail Nanjiani uses during his stand-up. Now, to be fair, my friend Larry the Cable Guy does an exaggeration. Sebastian Maniscalco does an exaggeration. And I right now am doing an exaggeration. If I'm at the bar at trivia night, I'm not like, Glenn, would you like a beer? I'm like, hey, you want to get another beer? My normal speaking voice would be something like that. Like, hey, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee right now. So this is a performance, and I'm up in my Johnny Mac delivery that my children make fun of. So maybe I'm being unfair, but in case you're curious, here is Kumail Nanjiani on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast. Fun fact, Michael is my former intern. That's right. Way back in the 20th century at WOR Radio, Michael Rosenbaum was my intern. And I got to give props to Michael. When he was the intern making copies, he said he was going to Hollywood to become an actor, and that he did. So I applaud him. Anyway, here is Kumail Nanjiani's normal speaking voice.
You know, I did stuff that should have been a home run, and then it wasn't. Like Eternals, you know, it was Oscar-winning director, one of the craziest casts. You know, you had like legends, you had Salma Hayek, you had Angelina Jolie, you had new people who were amazing, Brian Tyree Henry, Barry Keoghan, who have both been nominated for Oscars.
So you thought it was just a slam dunk?
Based on that Vulture list that I mentioned, I did watch Ian Edwards' special. It's a nice club set. There are some individual jokes that are really strong, but if Variety thinks that's like one of the top 10 of the year, as we used to say in Queens, I think Variety is on crack. Now, Variety's not an individual person, but someone who was on crack that doesn't write for Vulture might think that Ian Edwards is one of the top of the year. So I'm really suspect that Kumail Nanjiani is the number one special of the year. It comes out December 19th. It won't make my list because my publicist wants my list this weekend so she can publicize it. So that'll be Saturday's episode. Oh, I did record the Billboard Top 25. The rest of the list is out. I looked at the list. I'm saving my reaction to it for some episodes right after Christmas. I could take a couple days off, you know, Christmas Day. I don't want to be sitting in the basement talking about comedy, and plus there won't be any news anyway. Like any list, some things I went, oh, good pick, and some other things I went, that is crazy town. If you'd like to hear my thoughts now, it is released as a bonus episode for the paid subscribers. So for $5 a month, you get this show commercial free, plus the extra episodes that I occasionally sprinkle in. I owe you guys a DCN8. It's been a super busy month. But you can hear my reaction to Billboard's list in there right now. Otherwise, get it for free on December 29th. How are we doing on time? Oh my, the combination of I have no voice and the clock says, let's take a break. Out today on the 800-pound gorilla, Rosie Jones, a triple threat. On the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan called President Trump a kid and revealed President Trump's texting habits. Rogan said he makes the text go big like USA is respected all caps, and it makes the text enlarge. That's fun. I've never received a text from President Trump. Hannah Gadsby will have a new show set to debut in March at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. The Evening Muse is described to be like a Tonight Show, but hosted by Hannah Gadsby, so it isn't anything like you'd expect. The Melbourne Comedy Festival runs from March 25th through April 19th. Always fun to cover here in the basement. One of these years I will have to go. Love Melbourne. Melbourne is a great city. For its 40th anniversary, the 2026 festival will include a one-night-only spectacular The Big 4-0, celebrating the milestone, bringing together standout comedians from this year's program and legends from across the 4 decades. A bunch of local legends will be there. I don't think you would recognize any of these names unless you're like, you know, extremely into Aussie comedy. International stars hitting the festival include the UK's Sam Nicoresti, who won the 2025 Edinburgh Comedy Award for Best Show, Ian Smith, Chloe Petts, Joe Kent Walters, Luke McQueen, Phil Wang, he's great, Scotland's Connor Burns, Daniel Sloss and Larry Dean, and Ireland's David O'Doherty and Joanne McNally. From the US, Sam J., Abby Govardhan, and Zainab Johnson. There are also international comedians from Singapore, Malaysia, South Africa, Denmark, abbreviated DNK for some reason. Sophie Hagen of the DNK will be there. Takashi Wakasugi from Japan. And Tarag Hardikar from India. It's the Melbourne Comedy Festival coming up. Patton Oswalt, who's out there ruining Star Trek with his really awful Doug the Vulcan character, and the president has done nothing about this. I mean, the president is nothing but disappointing me today. Mr. President, please make Star Trek great again. Have you seen the teaser art for Starfleet Academy, Mr. President? Holy cow. I mean, I just want to say words that sound a lot like Jesus that have a JC in it, but, I don't want to offend anybody. But boy, this Star Trek poster, awful. And Patton Oswalt as Doug the Vulcan ruining Star Trek. He was talking about AI, and he said, AI is not going anywhere. We can't wish this stuff away because we invented it. So how do we find ways to work around it or make it more human? I like the rewards, but the rewards are only fun if you got it. It's almost like getting away with it. I got all the success from making things up from thin air. There's something beautiful about that, getting to sit down and come up with a joke out of nothing. It'll never get old for me. I've always said I'm in showbiz for the money and the anecdotes. I want some really amazing stories. I want every part of the canvas covered. I want to be able to explore every corner of it. It changes you when you experience all this stuff. Oh, and I have this Veer Das story. Been meaning to get this one in. He was on social media talking about Mumbai's worsening air quality. He said it's reached a point where coughing has become redundant as his lungs have adapted. He was on Instagram. He filmed it in his living room and added a smoke filter for effect. And he posted, "Oh, you think this is outside? No, this is what's happening inside you." Apparently, Mumbai's air quality index has now touched the severe category. And that's your comedy news for today. All right, back around noon Eastern with the Comedy Survivor Selection Show. While I'm recording, I'm arguing with the AI to make new artwork. It has made artwork. You've seen it in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast group. And I'm like, can you revise it? And the AI is like, no, I can't do that. And I'm like, you just did it. Yeah, but that was before I discovered the policy. All right, well, this is a parody. Can you do it? And just, it's so annoying. Sometimes the AI, maybe Patton Oswalt is right, except not about Star Trek. All right, bye.